want to welcome you to our Leavenworth City Commission study session. We ask that you turn off or silence all cell phones. Meetings are televised every day on Channel 2 at 6 p.m. and at midnight, also available for viewing on YouTube. At this study session, we have 4 items. First item on the agenda is the semi-annual report from University of St. Mary's. Hello, Sister Diane.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Go Spires.
We hope. You hope. Well, thank you. We have moved to another season. We graduated about 2 weeks ago. We graduated 174 students.
Hey.
We also had graduation in December and graduated 75 students because of the when our doctorate in physical therapy finished their program. So we now have 2 graduations, which we're pushing it because we were maxing out at 1,800 chairs. So.
Wow.
So it's always a fun time. We were able to celebrate. I think you're aware it was in our paper that we lost a senior in January that was driving back. And so we had an honorary degree for him that was accepted by his parents and family. So it was a somber graduation as we were able to award that degree. But we are grateful that we could celebrate with them and have lunch with them and give the students a chance to be with them as well, the students who couldn't go to the funeral. We'll also have a crowd here for reunion for June 8, 9, and 10 is our alumni reunion. We're celebrating our 100th year reunion, so lots of folks are coming back, and we're picking up classes that weren't able to come because of COVID. So we should have and we have those who like the nostalgia of staying in the dorms, and the rest think that's, I've done that, thank you, they'll be in the hotels. Our family nurse practitioner is going to have a change. We're going to be able to make that more of a hybrid program and take it partly online so that you can do the didactic part or book learning, if you will, online, and then you'd come to campus for the clinicals and the lab settings. Those still happen at St. John's. He's our very good neighbor, Wes, there. That's where those happen. In the old surgery room, we're very grateful that we finally got our master's in social work through we needed a legal change that happened, 10 days ago, finally. It's also under the KBR at Kansas Board of Behavioral Sciences, which sets the rules for who can take the test and who can't to be licensed. So we finally had to get a governmental legislative fix for that so that students can take our program, which is fully online. So very excited about that because we're shutting out our own Kansas residents who so badly need health care, especially in the rural parts of the state. So it has now opened all of that up, so we're very excited about that. Probably the big news on our campus is we are going to build a new residence hall on the north end of campus. We have been short space, so we have built out the ground floor of Maria. We put 24 rooms down there. The sisters moved out of the 3rd floor of Meade. We put 16 students up there, and now we've taken over the guest area, and we've put 16 more students there, and I'm out of nooks and crannies. So the new dorm will hold about 48 students. So very excited about that. And those of you who ever walk our campus know that we have a grotto there, Grotto to Mary from the Lourdes tradition. And it was badly in need of repair, both the statue and the ground around it. It's stone and the moss grew on it, and then it would just be a hazard. So praying became hazardous. So that's getting fixed.
Great.
So very excited about that. They started that construction as well. We usually have 2 seasons on campus. Sometimes they say that there's only yellow cone season in the summer. Well, we have maintenance season in the middle of summer, so we're also in the middle of tuck pointing our old buildings to help them. And then the following year we'll replace those roofs. I don't think they've ever been replaced, so that's a little bit of a challenge there. Maria's also getting some love. It needs the shower drains fixed. All of those things that must be done that no one sees unless they aren't done. So a lot of that kind of stuff happening this summer, but very excited about it. The summer sessions are all in session, so on campus is the physical therapist, the occupational therapist, the athletic training students. And then we keep there's about 20 students that stay on campus. That it's just better for them to stay with us, or else they have no place to go. So they stay with us. And for the most part, we put them to work, and they work off the cost of staying in the dorm. So we give them some extra little jobs there. We're very excited. We're forming a new partnership with the downtown. And so as we're building this out, it's for our orientation with the Main Street people. And so next second week in August, we'll take all of our freshmen to downtown. And the merchants are all cooperating and celebrating us. This way, hopefully our students will know all the things you can do in downtown Leavenworth. We want to actually get them here. We want to bring them down to some of the festivals. And, they're going to actually have little, games they do to get them in the different stores. So we're very excited about that. And I'm hoping that once we get them, and they know what's downtown, that we can get them here more often, rather than losing them to the legends.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll get to experience some of the treasures of our downtown area. As well as, just they don't know the river is right there, and just kind of explore what it means to be in Leavenworth. So very excited about that. And our track team has taken what we call the Triple Crown. So they won in conference, they won cross country, the cross country conference, they won the indoor track, and they just won the outdoor track. So they'll be headed to nationals for the third time. We love it, but it's a little expensive, in another week. So they're doing very well. We're looking for growth on our main campus next year. So we're excited about that as well. And so that's my quick update, but I'm open to your questions and what questions you have.
Do you have special projects you're doing in Fort Leavenworth that you're getting ready for?
Yes.
I know there was some discussion, but I didn't know if you were
We have
actually doing anything.
several partnerships going with Fort Leavenworth. We are very excited that we now have one of the Hiring Our Heroes.
Yes.
And he's wonderful. It's like, okay, how many more of these can I get? He is just an asset, and if I just got to figure out how I can keep him. And we also are working with the libraries are now sharing things. It's Dr. Metzinger, our provost, who is in the middle of that partnership. As they continue to build out, how can we work together? As two universities sitting in town, that only makes sense.
Sure.
So I think they're continuing to figure out how we can better do that. As once we get our students back, the general is going to come out and speak to them, and also bring with them their recruiting people, because we would love more of our kids to be in ROTC. It's a win-win. It's good for our kids, it's good for the nation. Provides some structure for them, and it also provides hopefully some tuition support. So yeah, we're looking forward to building that and continuing to work that forward.
I have one more question, and then I'll let somebody else talk. But when I was there, we had several foreign exchange or international students. Do you still have quite a few international students that attend St. Mary's from other countries?
We do, but it's
exchange?
not exchange. So we have students right now we have one from Egypt, Canada, the UK, Honduras, Jamaica, and Ecuador. Usually the kids coming from the Southern Hemisphere are soccer players.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yes, and generally they are, sometimes people have this illusion that all international kids have a lot of money. They don't. They're looking for a way out.
No, I know that.
Yeah, so we often end up helping them as well. All they have to do is tell me their story, and I have a bleeding heart. So yeah, but it's wonderful to have that mix of students in different cultures.
Yeah.
Only thing I just wanted to say, man, great job with the students at that's on campus. I've seen quite a few of them working in the downtown businesses, and anytime I get a chance to connect with them, it always it's a joy. I just tell them, man, they're very well mannered and they know how to conduct themselves in public, and so definitely want to give credit to you on that as well too. They're amazing.
Thank you. We have quite a few at the Italian restaurant in town. Yeah. I think there's 5 there right now. So
that's good.
Great customer service.
And I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for coming out and being part of our First Generation program.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
You've been quite an inspiration. He comes out and speaks to our students.
I appreciate it.
Sister, where do you go, where does St. Mary's go to recruit students?
Most of I can tell you where they end up coming from. So the majority of our students are still from Kansas. So we do Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas, California are the biggest ones. And then we have a scattering of, I have no idea how they found us. But the majority of our kids are still Kansas kids. I think we're still about 60% Kansas.
You try to incorporate alumni into that and have them, hey, bring your sons and daughters, make them legacy.
You know, I have to tell you, sir, I'm now feeling very old because the students I taught, their sons and daughters are now there. So I am feeling kind of like the grandmother. But it's wonderful to see the young men and women that I taught when I was teaching there, that now their students, their sons and daughters are at St. Mary.
That's cool.
It's that legacy program. Yeah, that sense of I had a great experience here and this is where I want my students to
Yes.
come. So yes, we try to work our alums as well. I had dinner in St. Louis with an alum, and my guess is in her mid-70s, and she has a great niece that she's trying to get to St. Mary.
Oh, awesome.
So it's when people have had a good experience, they want to share it.
Awesome. Commissioner Martin, you have any questions or comments?
No, I do appreciate the report out. Thank you. Thanks for the information.
Great.
Yep.
Well, thank you all very much for your support of St. Mary.
Yep, thank you as well.
Very grateful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Second item on the agenda, update on project progress and funding for American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funding.
Mr. Mayor, and Commission, I just want to give an update. I know we did a number of ARPA updates, funding and projects over the last year or so, and it's been a little while, but everything's moving well. I don't really need any guidance, but I kind of want to go through where we are. I'll just run through these real quick to give the public and the commission an update. So the sewer plant improvements obviously was the majority of the funding. That was a little over $3 million. You'll see the middle column there is what's been expended to this to date. So number one was the bar screen replacement. That equipment was ordered. I think there was a 20-week lead on the equipment. We ordered this some months ago, so it should be here just about any time. And that was the smallest ticket item of the three that we were going to repair, so that should be in. The biggest ticket item, the trickling filter replacement, we should put that out to bid now anytime, probably maybe by the end of this week. So we have those big trickling filters, the big oval shaped or round shaped pieces. They have filter media that stretches from the top to the bottom, and within that filter media are arms and mechanical elements. Those are original to 1972 when the plant opened. We actually need to replace 3. They're about $2 million a piece, but one right now is non-functional, and that's the one we're replacing. And so at some point in the not too distant future, the filter media in trickling filters 2 and 3 are going to need to be replaced. But right now they're functioning okay, and we're working on that one. So that'll go out to bid, and then construction this fall on that. And then the final thing was replacement of the belt press. As you remember, maybe we're transitioning to what's called a screw type press. It's just the way that you compress the material. So think about it, rather than compressing it, it rings it and screws it. That's just indicative of best practices now. Is the screw press is more efficient for over the long term. That's about a $700,000 to $750,000 issue, and that has the word for the design of that is next week. So you'll see that before the commission, and BG Consultants can give you some more information. So those projects, they take a little time because they're pretty complex, but those are all moving very well and should be expended by the time the ARPA funds need to be. Fire truck replacement's been approved and ordered by the commission. Refuse program change set aside, approved and ordered. So that is the polycarts and expenses related to that. Fire suppression and ADA grants, we have given one out, and there are several others interested parties in the program. We have quotes from some business owners who have, it's really spurred business owners to find architects and engineers who do this type of work and share it amongst themselves, which was a problem. So a lot of activity, and I expect to see that activity ramp up here pretty quickly. Women's Center upgrades, that one came in well under budget, which is a good thing. That was the rebuilt kiddie pool, rebuilt all the main pool pumps, refurbishing all the adult pool features, and those are complete and should be ready for opening of woman pool. The traffic calming pilot project, the project concept was approved by the commission. Final bid documents are being drafted now, and bids expected this summer. We talked about that at a study session last month. City Hall condensate piping replacement, we're working with the mechanical contractor on the project specifications. The $300,000 is about half. That's replacing all of the condensate piping in City Hall. That was not done in the renovation in the early 2000s, and most of that dates back 75 to 100 years, most of the piping in the building. Police radio encryption, that was back in July of 22, approved and ordered. City Hall HVAC unit, back in September of 22, approved and ordered. Actually, that's approved, ordered, and is being installed. The housing project, that was the project with Sister Vicky. Again, that one was approved. And the Leavenworth Attainable Housing, they rezoned 728 Potawatomi. They already purchased one structure, so they're moving forward on all of their projects. The youth-related program relates to the contract with Big Brothers Big Sisters, and so that came in a little bit under what we had allocated. Funding and contract approved, and I believe that they have a public meeting coming up in June. June 9th, and we'll get some information out about that. They're going to host it, I think, at the community center. They're going to do 3 community meetings on one day at 3 different times during the day, so anybody has the opportunity to go. And we'll put out more information about that here in the next couple of days. Relocation of the RFCC offices. The staff has selected Sands Construction on the design on a construction bid, and that hasn't come to the commission yet. So you'll see all that, the design and the contract here in probably in the third quarter. And then finally, we had the project that was dependent upon funding, and that was a Wilson Avenue widening project. We did get some really good news from Zephyr out there, and so we'll share that in the next couple weeks.
Good.
And so that expansion of that business is good and moving forward in a positive manner. And we're looking at some ribbon cuttings and some events out there to celebrate the expansion of that business. So you'll see here that was not funded. We didn't have 1.125 million left. The commission did approve a design contract, so we don't have the final engineer's estimate yet. But this was sort of as projects start coming in, hopefully under budget, and we have a little bit left over. We'll see how much we have. The 388 is the shortfall. So right now the actual cash available, or expected cash available, is $736,987.09, which is basically the forecasted budgeted amount minus the shortfall. So we're 3/4 of the way there on the estimated costs anyway, which is a good sign. That's a project that I think the commission was favorable to as we tried to help Wilson or Zephyr with that Wilson Avenue project to be able to really expand their business and the work that they do back there, the investment that they're making. So that's where we are right now. As projects continue to come in and costs are known, we'll have a better idea on Wilson Avenue. And once that design is done, we'll have a better idea on the cost estimates that the consultant comes up with that. So everything's moving well and looking good cost-wise, and certainly open to any questions that you have at this time.
I appreciate the update. Any questions from the commission?
That was self-explanatory.
Yeah.
I did, I have a question. On the, I'm just curious, and I don't know if you'll know or not, on the first piece that you said those, with the trickling filter replacement, and they're like $2 million. I mean, is that just because of the?
It's extremely large and extremely custom.
Okay.
They're the giant holding tanks.
Right.
And from the top to the bottom, they have a very dense mesh media, and they degrade over time. But also, once you take that out, there's all the welding and all the mechanical pieces within inside that. The arm that moves around top, all that will have to be replaced, and essentially you're completely rebuilding the entire trickling filter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And these ones have, lasted 50
Right,
plus years.
right. So it's just not
If
one
done
piece,
right.
it sounds like it's.
That's right. Yeah, they just degrade over time.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't think we're gonna have a problem with spending the funding just with all of these projects, but the deadline is next year, correct?
To have them obligated.
Okay.
Obligated by the end of '24 and spent by the end of '25.
Okay, all right. Any questions, Commissioner Morton?
No, sir, Mayor Wilson, I appreciate the update, Mr. Kramer, and I kind of like having these updates on these numbers throughout the year, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Appreciate you, Paul. There's no other questions. Move on to item number 3, Havens Park traffic flow review.
There it is.
Mayor, Commissioners, good evening, good to be here with you. As you know, recently, here over the past several years, we've been adding trail out at Havens Park. In the last 2 years, we've added just under 2,000 linear feet of asphalt trail, bringing our asphalt trail total to just over a mile at the park. And then there's countless, we haven't measured it out yet, the mountain biking and hiking trails that have been put at the park by the Trail Mob with Chris Hendrickson and the volunteer group. So a lot of growth out there, and we've reached a point where we've kind of finished the corridor. Brian, if you pull up the next slide. So this is an overhead of what I'll just call the sections that's all the trails, with the exception of at the top is that gray area, the gray line with the circle in. That is the roadway that goes through it. So vehicular traffic is on that. The dark lines are all paved trails. The hash line heading around the circle is the trail asphalt trail we installed last year, and then the solid line leading down there to Shawnee is the asphalt trail that we've installed this year and has since been completed. So the reason we're here tonight is we've pretty much completed that roadway corridor for an asphalt trail. So as Brian and I met out on site, it's time to think about putting a trailhead in. And when we talk about a trailhead, generally what I'm talking about is a starting point for people on bikes, for people hiking, things like that. Things that generally go along with a trailhead include signage, letting people know the distance of different trails, possibly the difficulty of trails, which will probably occur here because there's quite a bit of slope in this park. And then as well as there's usually some sort of vehicular management to keep vehicles and pedestrians and bikers from having interactions. So really that's the main topic of discussion that Brian and I are bringing forward to you tonight is what makes the most sense, where makes the most sense to put this trailhead in out at the Havens Park. Now that we have additional trail out there, we have our new restroom on site, what makes the most sense? And we're bringing forth a recommendation that we see that makes a lot of sense. Brian, if we go back to the original one. So as I mentioned, the gray line through there is active roadway, and where we're talking about putting the trailhead is basically at the top of the road, just up from the new restroom facility. Is there a cursor on that, Brian?
Yeah, let me try this here.
And we'll show zoomed in here in a little bit, but I wanted to show you the big picture. We can. So as you head up the road, okay, yeah, just go on to the next slide then. As you head up, so the restroom, this is the entrance off of Ottawa. You're heading up into the park, and then as you turn right onto that roadway up there, that would be where the trailhead would be. And our thought process, this is looking at it from the restroom. So just to the right of the trucks up there, you see where the road turns right. There's a natural, not natural, man-made concrete retention wall right there. We will help use that for some of the vehicular traffic, as well as install some bollards and some natural vehicle control measures, which we'll get into here a little bit later. That would be the spot where we would call that a trailhead. We would put signage in that area, and showing different lengths of trail sections, different difficulties, and such things as that. This slide here really shows the area very well. At the top of the screen there, that roadway, that is Ottawa Street. To the right, that is 22nd Street coming up the hill. Mm-hmm. So you enter in through the park, heading from the top of this screen down, which would be heading from north to south, with the restroom on your left-hand side. And as you reach to the top, the the trailhead would be right there.
Right here?
Yes, correct. Yes, just to the left of the top of that roadway. Our thought process is we'd be able to open up the old roadway that heads out to 22nd there as for vehicular traffic flow, where people could come through and drive right back out onto 22nd. That roadway has been closed since I started working here 20 years ago, but it's still in really good shape. It's just a matter of opening some gates and doing some tree work in-house. So why the trailhead at this location? When we looked at the site, there's really in our minds, Brian and I talked about it, in our minds, there's 4 really good reasons to put it here. First, the obvious one is the proximity to the new restroom. It's just up the hill from it. You're able to park at the new restroom and walk right up and start on the trails. Second, what we would do is the old roadway would become part of the trail system and get incorporated with the rest of the trail, pretty much completing various loops. So you're adding trail length just by doing the length of that trail, which is about, or that roadway, which is about adding about 1,800 feet of trail right there. Another very positive aspect of closing off beyond this point for vehicular traffic is the mountain biking and hikers and the interaction with vehicles driving on this. You see, this roadway is relatively flat. It's easily traversed for people of all abilities. You see a lot of people parking along there and just walking on the road. This would give a stretch of trail in Havens Park that is extremely accessible. We'd be able to put some on-street parking up there. So you know, you could have a van accessible vehicle and offload right on there, and you're on flat ground, and you could traverse that whole stretch of roadway. So that's in my mind, that's probably the biggest positive of incorporating the roadway into the trail system, is it becomes the only accessible portion of trail in the park, which is really big for us. So what you see there, the dots there, those kind of represent where some vehicle control measures would be. We wouldn't do fencing, we would do something more natural, such as native stones and stuff. Brian, if you want to go down to the next one, I'll let you talk about some of the research or things you've looked at on these.
All right, so as you see in the picture there, big boulders, it's a natural look for that area because that's a pretty natural park, natural setting. So it would blend in nice, it looked nice. Having those boulders stretch out through some of the grass, and then having a special barrier like that, ballard there, would allow for us to maintain the park, pull the ballards out so we can maintain the park, allow accessibility for emergency vehicles and so forth. And these are very common on bikeways and trails and paths throughout the country. So we really wanted to keep it, a natural, clean look to the park. So that's what we thought we'd use for some of that. The next slide is kind of what our trailhead sign would look like. This is just an example. It'd show the trails, the map of the trails, the accessibility of the trails. It might talk a little bit of the history of the park, as well as different plants and nature, birds and stuff that you might find in the park as well. So it kind of, ties the whole thing together. We get a lot of bird watchers out there. There's a lot of different trees people like to look at, and so it's a pretty unique park as far as nature goes. So that's the type of sign we look at for the trailhead.
And we could have individual maps, and we'll do some more mapping on the mountain biking and hiking trails. The trail mob hasn't done a lot of that to this point, but we will include some of that in with the with this trailhead information. People go up to this trail, they know the distance of each direction they're going, how far they want to go. some of the slope. The park has quite a bit of slope to it. Once you get off that bottom stretch, if you decide to go up, you better be in pretty good shape if you're walking. So it's not a permanent change to a park. It's a thought process, making this a lot of foot traffic, a lot of hiking and biking and trails. Trails are so popular. It's a relatively inexpensive way to manage a beautiful piece of property. There's some cost with getting the stones and the bollards and the sign made, of course, but there's not huge infrastructure going in on this. It's just an absolute beautiful piece of property. It really is, and to be able to control vehicles and vehicle and hiker and biker interactions, I think from a safety standpoint is extremely important also. I've seen a lot of mountain bikers coming down those trails pretty fast also. So that's our thought process. We think we're at a point where we're ready to put a trailhead in somewhere, and in our minds, it makes a lot of sense to put it down there in that area. For all the reasons that we've mentioned. So with that, unless Brian has anything to add, I'll open it up for discussion, thoughts, questions, anything you might have.
I think that seemed to be the natural spot. I mean, the road goes up and then it ends there.
Correct.
Goes right or left. And so, but having a little bit of extra parking up there might be good too, because there's not that many parking spaces at the bathrooms. But you're right about, I mean, it has some steep parts, but you can go two different directions. You can go straight up the hill, or you can go wind around. So it is very accessible to everybody, I think. I think that making it safer, so, I mean, we've called the police when we've seen trucks tear around in there and I mean, what you're spending in fixing all that too is you'd be saving some of that. And then tearing some of horses and other things, tearing up the trails, because you can't stop the horses, I guess, from coming in, but, except that it's against the law. But I don't know, there's just so many reasons. We've seen homeless people living in cars up there, and we've seen drug paraphernalia and that sort of thing. I just think you're gonna see a lot less of that if you aren't able to have cars up in that area, so I think it's a great idea, and I'm glad you came up with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the update. I'm just curious to learn more about the history of Havens Park, like what's the size of it? And then at one point, I know it used to be a go-kart trail. When did that change? And this is
Go
for
back to
the
very
public's
second
awareness.
slide. So
It's there, still
I'm
there.
pretty sure it's 65 acres, Mayor. So see up top there, the thing that looks like a little racetrack?
Yeah,
That is it's still up there today. The asphalt is still there from the old goat track, or the go-kart track.
I raced go-karts there.
A lot of people did back in the day, and there was a lot of fun had up there. And it's very difficult to get to now with some of the rock outcroppings and stuff, with some erosion over time. There's a lot of rock up top there. Because of that pass, it's made it a little difficult to keep vehicular traffic out of the park, because a lot of people grew up with that mindset. Well, we used to ride a go-kart or mini bikes or whatever through the park, and once you start building trails and inviting people on bicycles and mountain bikes and hiking, then those kind of interactions between motorcycles and things like that become undesirable pretty quick.
It'd make a great camping pad, though. I mean, the shape and size of it and everything, it's on a flat area all by itself there. Would make a good camping,
so we're thinking about
like
the
for Boy
change.
Scouts or whatever.
So we think the change took place, what, maybe about 20, 30 years ago? When it was no longer used as a go-kart trail. And the reason that I'm asking, because I had
Oh,
someone
no,
from
it's
the
longer
public
ago than
ask,
that, yeah.
they were asking, inquiring, how come they're unable to ride go-karts up there anymore?
Well,
So that's why I'm
It was
asking.
not-
Mayor, that was way before I've been here, I'm going on
So that's
20,
why I'm asking.
going on 21 years.
I'm
and
really old, so I know the answer to all of that.
I know it was pretty overgrown and had been abandoned as a go-kart track for many
Okay.
years when
Many
I
years.
started here, and that was going on 21 years ago.
Right.
I'm not sure how long ago that was, but
Well, in the 70s, there all those roads that went through there were open, and there were a lot of cars coming and going, but there was a lot of dirt bikes and stuff that were tearing up the place, and, just, I mean, it was just no man's land. Police didn't like to go up there, and it just got to be more and more difficult until eventually they totally closed the park.
And
For
now
many
those
years,
old,
for
now
many
those
years.
old road beds have kind of leaned themselves into being pretty good trail beds.
Yeah.
And that's where, the center one and everything we just paved in the last 2 years, those are the old road beds. So it didn't take a lot of dirt work and a lot of grading at the beginning, which is why we were able to get further and stretch the dollars a little bit longer on how far we can go with the trails.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
sure.
Thanks for the update. Any other questions? Commissioner Martin?
Yeah, appreciate that, Mayor Wilson. Mr. Gann, I do appreciate you put the information together. I still think that Haven Park is probably still one of the best kept secrets we have in Leavenworth, on the trail and everything. I think it's the closest thing we've got to, to Weston. And so my family and I love it up there. And as far as the trailhead goes, I definitely like your idea on keeping it where we can, have the van accessibility piece come into play. So you guys already do a good job of kind of figuring some of that out, and I appreciate it. But no, I appreciate the update, and I'm excited to see if we can generate some more interest up there.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Got a comment?
I'm, like you, a lot of this was long before my time. Down the lower right-hand corner, you can see all what looks like road beds and stuff like that. Is that where you were talking about, the go-kart
So,
track? The go-kart track, you said it was up top.
No.
It's
So-
in the top.
It's down below.
Oh, it's down below.
This right
Okay.
South of-
so that right there is the old go-kart track. That is
Okay.
the actual asphalt from it.
Yep.
I was
right
gonna say,
there.
I don't remember
Yeah.
that at all.
Yeah, there's incorporated, this is a very steep slope, coming up here, and then a very steep slope coming up again. And incorporated in all those slopes are all the mountain bike trails and hiking and biking trails that the trail mob has put in. These are just, again, what Commissioner Bauer was referring to, some of the old roadways that used to go through the park.
Yeah.
And you can still see some of the clearing from them, which if we were to go and add asphalt trail again in this park in the future, some of those top old road beds is where we would probably go next. It would make the most sense. We'll have a study session either probably later on this year or the first part of next year where we want to spend the CIP dollars for trail next year, whether we want to head to another park or whatever, that's a different discussion. But that's what those trails that you see there.
Well, and when we had go-karts up there, 22nd, not 22nd, but the steep hill over by you, Choctaw. Went
Shawnee.
straight- Shawnee,
Right.
not
Correct.
Choctaw. Shawnee went straight up the hill. That was the way you went to go to the go-kart track, is go up the hill and then come around. And those aren't even there anymore. So,
Okay,
I mean, you
that's
can't
why
get to it from there
we don't
anymore.
see it. Okay.
Remember
But
that
you
hill?
could. It was easier to get in that way than any other way.
Yeah, the very, very bottom right corner is the intersection of the top of Shawnee Hill.
Shawnee,
The
right
bottom-
there.
Yes, correct, the bottom
Okay.
right-hand corner of that. That's the very top of the hill, Shawnee, right where it meets 22nd Street, and it all turns to gravel right there.
The steep hill.
Very steep,
My dog doesn't even like to go up.
yeah.
I know, when I walk, I have to go
I-
back and forth, because I feel like I'm
Well,
gonna fall backwards.
You walk up that hill, that's impressive, because I don't think I can do it.
You drive down that hill without getting into a wreck. That's
Ride the bikes.
Yeah.
We used to sled on that
I was
hill.
gonna say, sleigh
you?
ride.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah, I think you
Thank
can go
all
away.
for the
Yeah,
update.
thank you
Really
for that
appreciate
update
it.
report.
Thank you so
Get down the
much.
hill.
Yeah.
Sure, so
Thank you.
Yep,
we're
thank
looking
you.
for a consensus to move forward, is that?
Oh.
I think that
Yeah,
sounds good.
yeah, yes,
Okay,
sir.
all right, thank you all for the time and your input.
Oh,
So
yeah,
we're
thank
excited
you.
about it, we
Yes,
really
sir.
are.
Thank you for your work.
Last item on the agenda, Fire Department 2022 annual report.
The Fire Chief Gary Burke.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, appreciate the opportunity to share with you a little bit about the department.
We had 3 presentations before me that lasted about 35, 40 minutes. I promise to keep mine under 55 minutes, so.
Thank you.
We'll appreciate that at the end.
Like, what?
But we're kind of, like, we've already finished the first quarter, so I went ahead and did the 22 annual report, and we'll talk about that, and then I threw in some stuff for the 2023 for the first quarter this year. We've actually been pretty busy this year with fires and stuff. This will be also posted on our website and stuff going forward. Just kind of my message, with the COVID years, 2021, presented us with some operational challenges. People off, sick themselves, short staff, and people having to go into quarantine and all that. So that was somewhat, but as far as running calls, that's the operational thing, and that's kind of what we do, is we adapt, we adjust, we overcome, we get the job done, whatever we're faced with. And so, we got through that. Actually, 2022 was probably the most challenging that I've seen because of our staffing shortages. We went into the year a little short. We struggled getting applicants, 1 or 2 applicants. And then we actually lost, I look back, in 2022, we lost 8 people that went to some other fire departments, And I think, I'm hoping that's, Mr. Kramer had the finance director do some studies for us and the salaries and comparable salaries and stuff, and was able to, and I appreciate y'all supporting that and bumping our starting salary up to be a little more competitive and stuff. So I'm hoping it kind of stops that bleed a little bit going forward. And, during that time, we have a minimum staffing each day of 13. So anything below that, we have to hire overtime to cover that, to maintain our staffing levels. So we have to get into overtime. And when you're short-staffed, we still have to let people off on vacation, which we limit that. And you can't always control, you might have somebody that's off on military leave. We might have someone off on FMLA. We might have someone that calls in sick. So you can't always control that. So we have to hire overtime. And there's some people that don't work overtime. That's their choice. And there's some people that will work all they can. We kind of have a 72-hour limit on that just for, safety reasons. If they put in 72 hours, they've got to leave and then come back later, next shift. But so we got into, some of my guys has been around 25 years, since the first time I've ever known this happen. We had to actually mandate people to work overtime. We got short and we had to mandate them, which created some issues. Some didn't like it, but we knew that, and they wanted to start trying to change the way we did stuff. And bottom line, it was because we were short-staffed. We can change the way we're doing things, but we knew we just needed to get our staffing up. And right now we're back up, so we're doing good. But we just made some adjustments, kind of working with labor management, talking, and changed the way we did things. And we had a list. We do things by seniority, so we had a reverse list. So if you were working, your name come up. You got stuck with working, so maybe you don't want to work tomorrow, but we just told you have to work tomorrow. So what we did is if you volunteer to work, then your name moves down on that to the bottom of the mandate list. So we had people started working overtime that normally didn't work overtime because they can control when they work. So it really helped out, just making those adjustments. But and I always say, when things get tough, the tough get going. It's kind of my saying. And even through all that, this in 2022, the morale seemed to really stay high with the guys. They all stepped up to the plate. And there's a lot of things, and I'll show you some pictures here in a minute. But these guys here that I work with is some of the best I've ever worked with, and I've been doing this a long time. December will be 47 years I've been in this business. And the guys that they take up on their own. They say, "Hey, Chief, we really need to jerk out them old bushes and do some landscaping. If you'll buy the material." So when people offer to do that, we always get the material. So they landscaped the stations. Our train tower out there has a fire hydrant, and around it there's no concrete. It's just a mud pit all the time. One guy said, "Chief, we sure could put a pad around that with concrete, make it a lot better, and we'll do all the labor if you'll pay for the concrete." So we did that, and they come, some of them on their days off. Some of them do that kind of work anyway, so it turned out nice. And then some of our new guys wanted to build a roof prop, which you'll see a picture of that in a second, for training purposes. So we've got that out there now, and we've actually got some other departments, our neighboring departments, would like to come and use it a little bit too. So we always welcome that. So that's just kind of what went on for our department challenges. And then also towards the end of the year, we switched over to our new record management system. So it kind of merged, which hurt us a little bit trying to figure out the numbers, because most of it transferred over. And then we went to the executive time as far as our timekeeping in the city. So that's a new role for the battalion chiefs and stuff. And then we've also just recently did Vector Solution, and that's another software for training, but it also provides us where guys can go in and do their EMS CEUs and other kind of training too. And that's something we always need to provide employees so they can have the opportunity to get enough CEUs where they keep their license. So that kind of sums up 2022, what we did there. The next slide there is kind of our mission statement, vision statement. And one of the things that I like to say is, I call it the wow factor, and it kind of falls into this. The fire service to me is the ultimate customer service business, because what we do is we help people. And I stress to the guys, it's not just when they dial 911, which they're having a crisis, we help them there, but any other things you see out there that people need help. You know, my guys have stopped and helped people with their flat tires. They've helped people, you know, an elderly person carry groceries to the car, and we encourage that. And that's why we're there. And just recently, we received a letter from one of our citizens. They had a fire in their home on North 12th Street, and they actually sent us a letter thanking us, but the guy showed up, put out the grease fire. That's what they do. So the 911 call gets us there, but then the wow factor. And the wow factor is she kept expressing in her letter that our guy showed her a lot of kindness. You know, house had smoke in it. She was really talking about that. And while they had the door open trying to ventilate the smoke, her cats got out, so they tried to assist with that. But she just went on and on about the kindness that the guy showed for that, you know. So, and occasionally we get letters like that. So I was really appreciative that the guys did that. That's our organizational chart. We've got 54 total employees with 54 uniformed employees. And it kind of breaks down the org chart. We had 3 shifts. And the guys, they work a 24-hour shift. So basically, they spend a third of their life at a firehouse. And it's I call it firehouse because they live there. You know, live together, train together, work together. And so that's that. We have, like I said, we have 16 assigned to each shift. We allow 2 off on vacation. And then that other spot, kind of a cushion if someone's sick or something of that nature. So that gets us down to the 13. So you can see if we have vacancies, that gets us there quicker. That kind of shows the city. And I plotted out, those are a mile and a half ring around each fire station. The green at the top is Station 2, 10th and Shawnee, then the red is Station 1 over on 20th, and then Station 3, 2nd Avenue and Limit, which that's the one that we're looking at replacing next year. But it kind of shows you we got a little overlap in the coverage. And I know we can't move to the north, we can't go to the river, and we can't go south. If we ever did annex to the east, the Station 1 actually goes out there a little bit beyond that. When we got the ISO rating, one of the concerns was we had a Quint there, which we didn't get counted for as the truck company. So we've actually moved it to Station 2. So we did a little changing around to help with our ISO rating, and I think it provides a better service also. There's a picture of the 3 stations that we have. The 1 and 2 now, they were built in 2000, 2001. So they're starting to get a little age, you know, things like air conditionings and things like that, you know, repair. Our apparatus fleet, and I have a tendency to talk fast, so if you got a question, just throw your hand up, okay. Our apparatus fleet, that shows the frontline units. We have 4 frontline units, 4 companies, as I call it, 3 stations. Station 2 has 2 companies. And a company is a fire truck. It has an officer on it, we call a company officer, the rank is captain, a driver operator, and then a firefighter. We run 3 minimum. So we have 3 engines and then a truck. And down at the bottom where it says aerials, they cross-staff that. Both those trucks are sitting at Station 2. And we have the cities divided up in zones, a lot of zones. And when the dispatch gives an address, it'll put it in a zone. Like they may say this is for Station 2, Zone 201 or 101. And that's the area that they're going to respond to. The Quint, there's a 75-foot aerial, and it responds basically, you know, like EMS calls and things of that nature. Station 2 has the 2 companies, so the Quint goes anything west of 10th Street, and Engine 2 comes everything this side, thank you, Paul, this side of 10th Street. Of course, course, they both respond on fires and stuff. In certain zones, the downtown area, downtown here, and then out the 4th Street corridor, where we have the college and the VA and all actually wrap around to Walmart, those zones there that the guys will grab their stuff off the Quint and get over on the new truck, the Ariel, and take it, the platform for that larger truck. So that's kind of how we're operating on that. Of course, we've got the 2 boats, and one thing I'll say, I went by today, looked at the river, because the Fort Leavenworth wants to do some training with us on a river and boats, and I drove down, and I think we could get in the water right now. That boat ramp, the water's been down pretty low, so we couldn't even get in there if we would have needed to, but I think we can get in there now. It's starting to come up a little bit with the rain, plus the snow melting up north. So we do that, and then also our hazmat trailer. We're one of the regional hazmat teams in the Mark region, so we work on the hazmat. We meet regularly and work with and get equipment, same as KCK, Overland Park, Olathe, Independence, Lee Summit, Blue Springs. So our guys train with their guys. So if we have something, we're gonna need everybody's resources and work together on that. One of the things that's not shown here, we also have a trailer that's got a lot of trench rescue equipment. There's a lot of construction going on, people digging sewers, water lines. There's always a possibility of a trench collapse. I've been on several of those over my career. So we have shoring and stuff like that. If we ever have that, that's another trailer that wasn't on the picture here. Any questions? Okay. The first quarter of this year, just wanted to hit on that. We've had, April, January, February, March, up to April 1st, we had 767 calls, which averaged 8.5 a day. Some days you may have less, some days you may have more, but it averaged that out. 32% of those were EMS calls, 32 of those were actual fire calls, and 68% are EMS calls. Now, when I say fire calls, that's not necessarily a structure fire. That's any kind of, maybe a grass fire, car fire, anything that's fire-related, not EMS. We've actually had 8 civilian injuries, somebody getting burned or hurt on fire type of calls, and no fatalities this year. So just kind of gives a look there on that.
What's the good intent call?
Someone needs some assistance, maybe a lift assist,
Okay.
some of that nature. It gets dispatched out of something, but when we get there, it's maybe something a little different.
Okay.
And like we may get a structure fire, but when we get there, it's food on the stove or a grease fire, so they'll code it as that.
Yeah.
To me, it's still a structure fire, but if you don't get there in time, it's going to be anyway. But and sometimes good intent too is it could be someone burnt some toast. Don't cat in the tree.
Cat tree.
Yeah, well, we try to help out there when we can. But yeah, it could be, maybe someone burnt some toast and they called us and smoke and we went there. It was a good intent. It wasn't, things of that nature. Under each one of those, and I got those, the 100s, 200s listed, but under each one of those, there's probably 30 different little other categories. So there's a lot of stuff under each one of those, The 2003 calls also, just kind of gave you an idea. On the left bottom there, it shows the calls per station. So as you can see, Station 2 runs more calls, but they've got 2 trucks there running those calls, splitting those up a little bit. And then I showed the calls per apparatus. And they cross-staff, like I said, that Quint 2 cross-staffs with Truck 2. That's why the Truck 2 only goes in certain zones. That's why that number's down, but that's the same crew on those. Station 3, as you can see, by themselves are running, quite a few calls too, 329. They're up there pretty good. So anyway, if we didn't have that truck up at Station 2, Engine 2 would be real busy, which would probably, what happens, there'd be times they'd be on another call and another call would come in, so we'd have to dispatch somebody from a little farther distance on that. So that's why it helps to have them be 2 units there. At the top, I got some of the national response times, kind of the best practices, if you will, on response times. And response times starts at the alarm handling. So when someone dials 911, he goes to the dispatcher, and they ask the questions, what's your address, what's your emergency, things of that nature. And the national says that they should be able to, and then the next step would be them hitting the button, which puts out a tone that we hear at the station, and then we listen for the address. And so then we're on the clock at that point for what we call turnout time. Then when we get on that apparatus, that truck, and we say, you know, engine 2 responding, then we go to the travel time. And then the total time after that. So the national standard is that the alarm handling is a minute 4. And now, on an EMS call, it's a minute 20 because the dispatch is asking questions. Because we don't go on every single EMS call. When they call for an ambulance, if they don't meet, you know, short of breath, bleeding, non-breathing, chest pains, we go on those calls. But if someone's having a pain in their ankle or something, they don't dispatch us on that. The only time we would respond on something else like that is the EMS gets there and they need help with a lift assist, a large person or something. We go help them, or they're down the stairs or something like that. But that's kind of how we are. Last year was a little tough to get the numbers because we transitioned to that different software, so it made us a little struggle. So I just listed our turnout time and the first travel time in 2002. You know, we encourage our guys to get on the truck as quick as possible. You know, them tones drop. And then, and actually last year we were using fractile times, which is a 90 percentile. So they took out the outliers from the top side and the bottom side and actually showed a higher number on the drive time. This first quarter, we didn't do the fractile, we just looked at the average. And we're at a 132 on turnout time. And so we're getting close to that national average. And then our travel time is 3 minutes and 32 seconds. And I tell the guys, we're not driving any faster. Still gonna do what we gotta do, stop at red lights and stuff. You make up your time by getting on that truck. That's where you make up the time. So, so far we're turning pretty good on that. Then, you know, it's not that everything's fast. It's just that, especially on EMS calls, you know, fires almost double in size every 20 seconds if it's got the fuel there. And then also the EMS, if someone stops breathing, you got 4 to 6 minutes before biological death starts to occur. And so that, time you get dispatched and get there on the road and stuff. And we're not always sitting at the fire station, we got some other activities that we're out doing too, which brings us to this next slide. In 2000, last year, we had a total of 3,096 calls, 131 fire calls, 42 structure fires, and 2,068 EMS calls. That was 72% EMS. And one thing I'll say about the EMS costs, because I've been asked a lot over the years, well, I called for an ambulance, somebody needed to go to the hospital, and a big old fire truck showed up. Well, that fire truck, we're on that fire truck, so that's what we respond in. We don't have the staffing to send 2 guys in a little pickup truck or something to get there, and and we got to go back in service, so we're on that truck and respond for a fire if we have to. But of those 2,000 calls, it's about a 45 to 55%, about 45%, almost 50% that we actually get there first before EMS. They're covering the whole county, even though they got 2 units here. They go out in the county also. So, and that's pretty common. Fire trying to get there within 4 to 6 minutes, EMS 8 to 9 minutes. So a lot of times we get there, we start the BLS, the CPR, the things we can do, stop the bleeding before EMS gets there. So that's kind of the system we work in, which is very common. Fire inspections, companies go out and do building inspections. We did 599 last year, which we're back up. That's about where we used to be before the COVID hit. Fire hydrants in our city, we've got 1,353 fire hydrants. They're supposed to drive by and do a visual, and we got them divided up, bunch of crews, get a visual on all and make sure it looks everything's okay. A third of them every year they turn on and flush the water, and we work in conjunction with the water department. They like us to do that because it kind of flushes out the gray water and stuff and cleans out, especially the dead end mains and stuff, so we work with them. And then also if our guys identify any repairs needed, we get those turned into the water department also. Our guys, if they see something need to paint, occasionally they go out and they'll paint the fire hydrants also. And I've even, I've never heard of this till I got here, but that's why I say the greatest guys in the world here. If it's not in someone's yard and there's an area where there's weed and stuff, they've been known to go back out there with the weed eater and kind of clear the area a little bit. So anyway, so that's good. Mutual aid assist, in 2022, we assisted other departments, be the Ford, out in the county, different Easton, Kickapoo, and District 1 28 times, and then we received assistance 7 times. Mainly our assistance is when there's a fire, when we got all our units tied up, they'll either come to the fire or they'll come in to cover something for another call. And then last year, we installed 59 smoke detectors. We had 22 community events that trucks went to, 9 schools and about 11 tours, which I think we have room to try to get that out a little more and get those numbers up a little bit, for public education and stuff. The next slide is kind of just a broad thing of training. At that roof prop is at the top left. We actually had some guys build that, we bought the lumber and they put that together. There's actually, 3 pitches, kind of the flat part, and then maybe a 6-12, and the other side is pretty steep, about 11, 12 pitch or so. So, they put the ladder up there, learn to ventilate with saws and stuff when you're standing on that angle, so they do that. And we've already, we've got people wanting to come from other departments and actually work on that. And I just kind of did a variety of stuff here. We got the extrications. There's a tow lot in Easton that brings us cars to help work on. The one below that's hazmat. We've had some people come in there to do the chemical training and stuff, different hazmat. It shows the driver operator training there, 2 different trucks, and then the trench rescue, the bottom. We had a guy come in, he actually dug a trench. One of our guys dug a trench out there, and we say we'll do the trench rescue class. We do a lot of hosting, KU, fire school. They want to give classes. We encourage them to come down at ours. And the reason why I like that, one, I like us to do it. We've had people from out of state even show up to come to some of the classes that they signed up for, all over the state of Kansas and the local area. But also it makes it easier for my guys. I don't have to send them somewhere, they're right here close. So I encourage, the hosting at our facility. We've got a very nice facility down there to do that. And then the community activities, we're in the parades. We've been up on post a lot. Their aerials always broke. They had to come and put the flag up, and and just the kids showing. It's just a variety of things. Kind of give you an idea of what we do there. Our color guards go. Sometimes they get asked to go to funerals where someone's died in the line of duty stuff across the state and stuff. So we do that. The guys volunteer to ring the bell, Salvation Army stuff. And then station life, like I said, the guys are at that station 24/7, They got their morning chores, just like your house. They clean up and clean the stations and all that sort of stuff. They live there, they eat there, they sleep there, They do a lot of self-training. One of the things before you can become a relief driver here, you've got to learn them streets. That's probably one of the toughest things they got to do is, learning the streets and stuff. And so it just gives you a little insight to what they do there. Shoot, I got nothing.
You're good.
A great job, definitely love the update. The only question that I have, are you currently recruiting at St. Mary's?
No,
Okay,
no, I haven't been up there.
okay.
No. Yeah.
Well, great job.
Yeah.
And also special shout out to
Yeah,
Fire
one of-
Station 3.
Yeah.
Those guys were amazing. They gave me and one of the young men that helped out with the spring cleanup, a tour, and he was just in awe. So he
Yeah.
loved it. They were great.
On the recruiting, one of the things that we require, and most departments in the metro are doing this. When I say metro, I'm talking Kansas City.
Big metro.
Yeah. The big departments like Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, they kind of have their own academy. So you get hired with the GED or a high school diploma, good record, go down there, and they put you through 12 to 18 weeks of training, EMT and all. Most all the other departments that we're not that large, we require you to have what we call Fire 1 and Fire 2 beforehand, and hazmat. And that, there's several of the junior colleges do that. KCK does it. They've even mentioned bringing it down here.
That'd be great.
EMT, yeah. And then the toughest one's probably the EMT, getting that. That takes a little bit longer, but we require that before we hire you. So that's one of the things here. Yeah.
For the general public, I think, explain a little bit about the smoke detectors. I know you installed 59 last year, but you still provide the smoke detectors from the fire department and install?
Yes, we got a grant years back, where we purchased a bunch of them. And then we've had several people kind of take it upon themselves to go out and get some money donated to us from some of the businesses. And we recently had a lady come and donated $1,000 to us to buy. We got quite a few smoke detectors. We'll probably buy a few more, but we'd like to also we give little kids little red hats and stuff, so we would need to do some of that public education. So we'll probably spend the money on some of that stuff. And actually, it was Walmart, it just dawned on me, who gave us that money. And one of the things is trying to figure out, because they got certain procedures and that finance has got on, or maybe the city clerk, on how to do that, how to actually get that money in there. So that's one of the challenges, but yeah, we do that. Something I just thought about, and several slides back, I want to go ahead and mention it, is on fire apparatus. You know, when we placed the order in 2016 to get the trucks with them 3 pumpers that we got in 2017, it was about a 12-month process. By the time we gave them a purchase order number and for them to build it, and actually it only took them about a month to build it, but it took all that other for design and all that. When we ordered the aerial platform, I think that one was, it was under 2 years. It took a little longer on that. Now they're telling us it's 36 to 48 months to build one. Like the one we ordered back like in about October, November with ARPA funds, it's gonna be about 3 years. And one thing that I was looking at, you know, they had the supply chain course in 2022, but now they got employee things. But also, there was an executive order on the federal level about emission standards to be in place, including diesel trucks and stuff, by 2027. So they've had mass orders, you know, so they're going to be backlogged until 2025 on that. So that's one of the things. And, you know, honestly, with emergency service, it'd be nice if someone lobbied the feds and said, exempt the emergency vehicles from all these emission standards, you know, just all the different things you got to do. And it's more things that break down on us too, you know, little things.
Sure.
But, so what we had to do in our planning, because we're kind of like looking at, we try to do a 15-year replacement now. When we presented the budget, or when I talked to Paul and finance, you know, okay, if we want to replace one, you know, in 2025, you know, we need to order it in 2023. We don't have to pay for it till we get it. But I kind of had to work a spreadsheet and say, hey, I know we're not going to do to replace this in 2028, but we need to order that darn thing in 2025, you know, so it just had to change the way we're kind of doing stuff. So it just had to make some adjustments because things are different now, you know. If we wait till 2028, it's going to be another 3 years old, you know, so anyway. And our Quint that we have, that thing's got about 100,000 miles on it already, so, yeah, so anyway. That's all I got.
Any questions or comments from the commission?
No. Good report, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Martin?
Yeah, thank you. Chief Birch, I do want to thank you and your team. I think it's definitely evident that you've tried to build a culture of a high-performance mentality, and I have to say, anytime you see any of your team, you know, that's going above and beyond what they're asked, it's reflective of the type of leadership that they have, and I just thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. All right, that concludes our study session. We'll go around the table, starting with our city manager, Paul.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
All right. Commissioner Martin, anything you would like to say?
No, nothing on this side. Just wish everybody a great rest of their week.
All right, Commissioner Hengelen?
Yeah, I received my postcard this past week on the refuse choices to be made. Everybody should be getting them by now. Please don't put it off. I mean, it does say, I think you have to have it in by the 31st of May. Don't put it off. Go ahead and do it now. If you don't want to if you just want to get your 95-gallon poly cart, you don't have to do a thing. But if you want to get the 65-gallon, or if you want to get none at all, you have to go ahead and follow the instructions on that postcard. Use that verification code above your name and address. Go online and let your druthers be known so that we can make that happen for you. Those are going to be delivered, I believe, in July. Is that right?
I think that's right. Yeah, once we get all the orders and figure out who's wanting one, we'll have a date set.
Yep. That, and y'all have a good week, 2 weeks. I'll be gone. I'm going to go to Poland, so. But I intend to come back.
I hope so.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Leavenworth?
No, I didn't have anything.
No.
Commissioner Bell?
the rain was welcome. I'm glad we're getting rain. And the master gardeners are out there working and everything's looking beautiful. So thank you to master gardeners for all of your volunteer work to make our city beautiful. That's all I have.
Yep. Definitely want to give a special shout out to Parks and Recs. We had our grand opening this past weekend of the splash pad. It was a huge success, very well attended, and thank you for everyone that had a role into the event. It was very successful. Families loved it. It was just beautiful. Great time for the city. God looked out and gave us some great weather, so that was very exciting as well too. That's all that I have.
That was a great time for you too, Mayor.
Well, God bless you all. Yeah, and, you all have a great week.
Thanks, Griff.